Hello and welcome to my channel, I Win to Lose Gaming, the tiny yet mighty master diviner of the Shenzhou Luofu's Divination Commission. Fu Xuan has poked and prodded her way into Honkai Star Rail. In today's video, I'll be going over everything you need to know about our seemingly omniscient seer. Fu Xuan was introduced gracefully dodging bullets, utilizing her ability to foresee the future to its fullest. So how does she apply this graceful and elegant ability to dodge everything in combat? Why, by simply getting hit by everything. The newest and thickest character in terms of survivability comes in such a pokey pint-sized package. Fu Xuan is a brand new 5-star HP scaling quantum character who walks the path of preservation. She is our first featured 5-star preservation character. We'll be going through everything you need to know about Fu Xuan, which includes her kit, stats and relics, light cones, teams, Eidolons, and lastly, my opinion on Fu Xuan. Our nigh immortal little master diviner has foreseen a basic attack, epically named Nova Burst. It's actually quite a unique one because it scales entirely off her HP stat. However, despite what its name implies, how it's literally a Nova Burst and should do a lot of damage, its damage certainly doesn't live up to its name. And oh boy, let's next talk about her skill. Known by stars, shown by hearts. This thing does a lot of stuff, so buckle up because we're going to be here for a while. First of all, it activates the Matrix of Prescience, or MOP for short, for 3 turns. While MOP is active, Fu Xuan's teammates will so generously share 65% of the damage they take with Fu Xuan. And after factoring in Fu Xuan's talent, which reduces damage by 18%, characters on her team are literally 3.5 times more durable than they otherwise would be. In this example, without Fu Xuan in the party, our poor little volunteer Lynx took 504 damage from our little bird friend. However, in this next clip with Fu Xuan's MOP, Lynx took 144 damage, while Fu Xuan took 269 damage. This is a huge amount of damage reduction on Lynx. Let's briefly talk about how the damage sharing mechanic works as well. From my understanding, I believe the enemy's attack is split 35%, 65% before any damage reduction is calculated. This means that Fu Xuan's talent's damage reduction does not double dip, and each character's individual damage reduction variables are calculated after the split. But wait, that's not all. Known by stars, show by heart. Also boosts HP by a very modest 6% and crit rate by a reasonable 12% for the entire team. But wait, that's not all at all. Known by stars, shown by heart. Matrix of Prescience, aka MOP, lasts for 3 turns, and it is tied to Fu Xuan instead of her teammates. This means that the Matrix of Prescience doesn't expire more quickly on speedy teammates. It will always last for 3 of Fu Xuan's turns, regardless of how many times her teammates move. But wait, because that's certainly still not all at all. Known by the stars, shown by hearts, MOP provides 1 instance of full party crowd control resistance. For example, you know those enemies that occasionally apply AoE team freeze against you? Well, this 1 charge will mitigate that freeze for your entire team 1 time per MOP. Keep in mind that it's not 1 charge per character, but it's 1 charge per MOP. But wait, because that's supercalifragilistically not all at all. Because Fu Xuan's skill will generate an additional 20 energy on top of the 30 energy most skills generate if you use it while MOP is still active. Yep, that's right, it's an incredible tool for Fu Xuan to fill up her own energy and refresh her MOP's duration while she's at it. So yeah, if you can't tell, her skill is basically a postdoctorate's thesis on mopping, doing so many different things and providing your team with tons of damage mitigation, a modest damage boost, 1 instance of crowd control, permanent uptime independent of her teammates' speed, and a lot of energy for Fu Xuan herself. Now that is a seriously stacked skill. Whew, we can finally talk about something much simpler. We have her ultimate, Woes of Many morphed to 1. Her ultimate costs 135 energy and hits all the enemies on the field, and scales entirely off of her HP stat. It also provides 1 charge to her talent's healing ability, and is the only way for her to gain additional healing charges throughout a battle. It also provides a small heal to everyone else in the party, equivalent to 5% of her max HP plus 133 hit points. Typically, you'll see around 400 to 600 HP heals from her ultimate. And now you're probably wondering, how does Fu Xuan keep herself alive? Why, it's with her talent. Bleak breeds bliss. This is the talent that makes Fu Xuan the ridiculously tanking monster that she is, and a wonderful damage sponge. First of all, at level 10, it reduces damage that the entire party takes by 18%. On top of that, it has up to 2 charges indicated here near her character portrait. What do these charges do? Well, if Fu Xuan is brought to under 50% of her HP, she'll heal herself for 90% of her missing HP. Basically, this is a free, nearly full heal for Fu Xuan and makes her comically difficult to kill. Fu Xuan starts with 1 healing charge at the start of a battle and can replenish additional healing charges from using her ultimate. And last but not the least, we have her technique of fortune comes fate. This makes her comedically unaware of her surroundings in the overworld, as she's able to completely shrug off all enemy overworld attacks. More importantly, she can be swapped off, and upon entering a battle while her barrier is still active, you'll start off the battle with 2 turns of the Matrix of Prescience. And here are some quick additional parameters of her kit. Her break values are standard, and so is her energy regeneration, with the only outlier being using her skill while the Matrix is still active to gain an additional 20 energy for a total of 50 energy. Speaking of which, let's quickly talk about her rotation. In most situations, you'll want to use her skill on the last turn that Mop is active, and use her basic attack otherwise. This allows you to use her skill, then 2 basic attacks, and repeat, for 100% uptime on Mop, while also utilizing her additional energy regeneration. In terms of her trace priorities, Fu Xuan is one of the least trace level dependent characters in the game. Personally, I would still level both her skill and talent, followed by her ultimate and her basic attack. You do get relatively small gains to her utility from leveling up her major traces, and instead, minor traces that provide HP are in my opinion overall more valuable on her. While her trace priority and level isn't as important, it is important to level her up to level 80 as well as her light cone, so that way she can have as much HP as possible. I have foreseen the next topic, and that topic is Fu Xuan's stats and relics. Fu Xuan is first and foremost an HP scaling preservation character. Especially against very dangerous new enemies like in the new gameplay mode, the Swarm Disaster, you're going to want to have a good amount of HP. I made a chart on what happens to her HP stat as well as her damage output, depending on what main stats you go for. We have a few options to consider. Honestly, it's completely up to you as to what you want her to focus on. For me personally though, I find that sacrificing some HP for speed and energy recharge to be worth it, especially once she's at level 80. With the right buffs in Swarm Disaster, my Fu Xuan was able to allow my team to comfortably tank the giant bugs on difficulty 5 with speed boots and an energy recharge rope. As for her ultimate's damage, well, unfortunately at Eidolons 0, she's not going to be doing a whole lot of damage, with even the max damage focused build only doing around 14,000 damage with her ultimate. Still, I would consider this non-negligible damage, but it's at the cost of burst uptime and her speed. As for the classic debate between speed boots and main stat boots, well, Fu Xuan is a skill point positive character, using 2 basic attacks for every 1 use of her skill. I personally prefer speed boots so she can generate more skill points while also being able to output more ultimates and basic attacks thanks to the speed from the speed boots. So most of these options are perfectly viable and reasonable, with HP percent body, speed boots, HP percent sphere, and energy recharge rope being the one that I personally prefer, but I can completely see other players using other combinations of stats for her. As for her energy requirements, Fu Xuan doesn't gain energy from her allies being hit or sharing that damage, but there will certainly be be many scenarios where having an energy recharge rope will allow her to ultimate one turn sooner. As her substats, HP percent is by far and away, in my opinion, her most useful substat, increasing everything in her kit, including her healing as well. Followed by speed, in my opinion, especially if you're able to hit certain speed breakpoints. Crit rate and damage are usable on her as well, since her ultimate deals non-negligible damage and she actually gains a decent amount of crit stats on her own. And flat HP, while scaling terribly in comparison to HP percent, is still a non-useless stat to have. And finally, effect resistance is never bad to have, and defense is interestingly not completely useless, as it lowers the damage that Fu Xuan takes, thus improving her own survivability. Next, let's talk about her 4-piece relic sets. Interestingly, she doesn't have a perfect option to use here, with me actually giving her best options just a 3.5 slime rating. The 2-piece Longevist plus 2-piece Wuthering Snow is, in my opinion, overall her best overall utility option, providing her more HP with the Wuthering Snow, also improving her survivability. The 4-piece Longevist Disciple improves her damage output thanks to the crit rate. You can also mix and match various other 2-piece sets with the Longevist Disciple, like the 2-piece Messenger for speed, 2-piece Passerby of Wandering Clouds for a bit more healing, or even the 2-piece Knight of Purity Palace, as that will reduce the damage that Fu Xuan takes. If you want to maximize her damage, well, unsurprisingly, the 4-piece Brilliant Stars will be her best option, especially against quantum weak enemies. Finally, you can use the 4-piece Passerby of Wandering Cloud for an instant skill point at the beginning of a battle, as well as to improve her healing output by a little bit. For her 2-piece set options, fortunately we have 2 clear winners. The Fleet of the Ageless is overall her best option, providing HP, and her teammates a small attack buff, perfect for supporting attack scaling DPS characters, and also another reason why I recommend Speed Boots to fulfill the passive on this 2-piece set bonus. However, if she's paired with a DPS character like Blade, the Broken Keel's crit damage will be more valuable, and the effect res also isn't useless on Fu Xuan. For maximizing her own damage, the Inert Salsado will be a good option since it boosts ultimate damage. But overall, I recommend the previous 2 options for a utility-focused build. Fortunately for me as a guide creator, her light cone section is actually quite simple. Her signature light cone, She Already Shut Her Eyes, is by far and away her best light cone. It provides both HP percent and energy recharge, and if she takes damage, which of course her mop's shared damage will count towards, the whole team gains 9% bonus damage. On top of that, this thing provides the unique utility of healing your entire team for 80% of their missing HP in between waves. This thing clearly deserves an easy 5 slime rating. Sadly, that's where the good ends, and none of the other light cones actually boost HP or energy, so we have to scrounge up what little utility we can find. In my opinion, her next best light cone, which I've only rated a 2.5 slime rating, is the 4-star light cone, Day 1 of My New Life. This thing will, at least noticeably, bolster the survivability of the rest of the team thanks to the all-res resistance increase to the rest of the team. An interesting couple of budget options are the 3-star Pioneering Light Cone and the 3-star Defense Light Cone, both of which have high base HP for 3-star light cones, while also providing some healing for Fu Xuan to improve her own survivability. These are good budget options if you don't have the other 2 above light cones. And as for the other light cones, well, none of them really stand out, but here is a chart on some of the other ones that I did some math for. So up next, let's talk about Fu Xuan's teams. For most level 80 teams in Forgotten Hall specifically, Fu Xuan is enough as the solo sustain for a team, and no healer or other preservation character is needed. As such, literally any 3 other characters that are good with each other are good with Fu Xuan. One example is a Hyper Carry Zila team with Zila, Tingyuan, Asta, and Fu Xuan. Another example is a Kafka Dot team with Kafka, Sampo, Luca, and Fu Xuan. Another core that I really like is this Fu Xuan plus Silverwolf core. This will be a great universal support core that you can pair up with many duos of the same element. For example, we can pair this core with any lightning DPS plus Tingyuan. We can pair Blade and Bronya with this core as well. We can pair Dan Heng, Imbiber Lunai, and Yu Kong with this pair as well, etc, etc. So why these combinations? Well, with only 2 elements on the team, Silverwolf will only have 2 elements to apply to the enemy, and thus making her much more reliable. And this leads me to talk about the elephant in the room. which is Mono Quantum. Of course, you can run Zila, Silverwolf, Fuxuan, and Lynx all on the same team. This team will be able to handle pretty much any content in the game, thanks to Silverwolf being able to always apply Quantum on the enemy, all while also having tons of sustain with Fuxuan and Lynx. Of course, you can swap out either Zila or Lynx for Qingque, but that does lead us to talk about the final missing piece for a Mono Quantum team, which is a Harmony Quantum character. Anyway, while this won't be the fastest team for clearing most content in the game since we lack a strong Quantum Harmony character, Mono Quantum is currently an incredibly flexible team ready for literally any fight in the game. Another amazing core with Fuxuan is Fuxuan plus any healer. A team like this will have incredible survivability, and once properly built can even easily survive through the swarm disaster with the proper blessings. So yeah, team building with Fuxuan is very flexible, as she takes the role of both a preservation character and to a lesser extent an abundance character with just one team slot. Oh yeah, and one last quick tip is to place her on the edge of the team to take less blast damage from enemies, since preservation characters have naturally higher aggro. Or you can place her in the middle of your team if you want more energy from characters getting hit, and of course, you should put her next to characters that enjoy being hit, like Clara and Blade. Speaking of Clara and Blade, Fuxuan is a great damage mitigator for both of them, drastically improving their survivability and providing them a modest offensive boost thanks to her crit rate buff, and in Blade's case, her small HP buff as well. I'll quickly blitz through her Eidolons. Her Eidolon 1 is overall her best Eidolon, providing her entire team with 30% crit damage while Mop is active. Her Eidolon 2 gives you a free revive once per battle. Interestingly, it will revive multiple characters based on what I'm reading, if multiple characters were KO'd at the same time, although I don't know what happens if Fuxuan gets KO'd. All her other Eidolons basically make her ultimate do more damage, and her Eidolon 4 increasing the frequency of which you can use it via the energy she gains from her allies being hit. By E6S5, hopefully I'm interpreting her Eidolon 6 correctly, but Fuxuan's ultimate can do up to about 280% of the damage of an E0S1 Fuxuan, a significant increase and definitely making it do much more than just non-negligible damage like it did before. So yeah, our first 5-star preservation character is an extremely powerful character for sustaining your team. And surprisingly, she's also a very flexible character, slottable in literally any team right now that needs more survivability. The overall damage mitigation she provides is different from shielders like Japard, who fully blocks damage, but she compensates for this by also providing some small heals for the team, damage buffs, and 100% uptime even on really speedy characters. Her being Quantum will provide lucky Silverwolf havers an incredible support core and survivability core for literally any other 2-element duo. And of course, Fuxuan is an incredible asset for the Swarm Disaster, as enemies there do an insane amount of damage to you while also being weak to Quantum. As for how good she'll be in the future, well, if we have more hard-hitting content like Swarm Disaster, she's sure to still be an incredible asset. I personally foresee a bright future for our favorite Pokey Proddy new addition to our roster. As always, I appreciate every single one of you. This is I Want to Lose, signing out.